Hello and welcome back to the live coverage of the Last Chance Qualifier for the Lost Boys Lorcana Invitational happening tomorrow and Sunday here at the Apex Gaming Home Store in Caldwell, Ohio, sponsored by TCGplayer.com. I'm Tandy, joined by Bo Matt. Say hi, Bo Matt.
Hi, Bo Matt.
And we are members of the Lost Boys, and we are here to bring you live coverage of this event and the event tomorrow. We have one round of 4 in the books so far. We are entering round number 2. Bo Matt, why don't you give us a rundown of the 2 players and their 2 archetypes before we get started?
All right, round 2, we're going to be watching Andrew Wetzler playing Ruby Amethyst Control against Alex Nassos playing Sapphire Emerald Aggro.
Ooh, that's interesting because Sapphire, has the 2-cost Aurora that can quest for 2, quite aggressive. But
Right.
normally you see Sapphire, people lean into it with the ramp effects, and maybe just using Mickey Mouse to ramp into those 5 drops could be quite good.
Exactly. One of the cards we don't see a ton of that Alex is focusing on is a couple copies of Eye of Fates, which can be a great tool at closing out the game against Ruby Amethyst in this type of matchup.
All right, well, the players have been waiting in the feature match area, so let's head on down. Don't make them wait any longer, and we're going to watch these 2 players fight it out. We are in the 1-0 bracket. We're playing 4 rounds of Swiss, and the top 4 will be having a playoff to determine the 2 last chance winners. We have 16 players here in our event. All right, and we are underway. We're going to get the game count updated for you, but everything else looks clean. Alex Nassos on your left playing that Sapphire Emerald aggro deck, and Andrew Wetzel on your right playing Ruby Amethyst Control. Looks like Andrew is able to win the die roll, and here we go. No turn 1 play.
Looks like I thought we had everything right, but our names and archetypes. Oh no, we might be on the middle seat instead of the first.
Yeah, I think we're on the wrong camera. So let's we just have the name. Well, we have the names right. There we go. All right, here we go.
Bingo.
So this is Andrew Wetzel on your right playing Ruby Amethyst, and Alex Nassos on your left playing Emerald Sapphire. Neither player with a 1-drop. Ruby Amethyst on the play. Gonna play something on turn 2 here. It's Ursula's Cauldron, maybe my least favorite card in the whole game.
Yeah, if you're familiar with Magic, I describe this card as Sensei's Divining Top, but worse, in that you spend a lot of time watching your opponent figure out what to do with those cards. But Andrew made that decision pretty quickly. Looking at deck lists, I'm interested in Andrew's deck. We see a lot of focus on ending the game with 4 Mickey Mouse Brave Little Tailor, 2 Pongo, and 2 Goofy Daredevil. That's 8 evasive threats for Andrew. Pairing with 3 LeFou Instigator, which is another card we don't see a lot of in Ruby Amethyst anymore.
All right, here's a 2-cost Sapphire Aurora. This thing's going to quest for 2 and be relatively threatening. Andrew Wetzler going to need some sort of answer. Top of the deck is an Archimedes and a Heroic Outlaw. Neither of these cards look quite that good next turn. I'm curious which one he keeps. We'll see what he wants to do this turn to challenge that Aurora. Could go ahead and get down something like Rafiki, maybe a Sorceress, Maleficent, maybe just cast Friends on the other side and draw 2. Let him quest a couple times. Hand doesn't look great.
Right. Andrew was looking at this Aladdin Street Rat, and you can consider playing that. It challenges this Aurora. You do miss out on taking a lore away from your opponent, so it depends on how important you decide that is. But Andrew decides not under that much pressure. Just gonna draw a couple cards while we have time to.
Okay. I think more so is just no other plays, And a lot of times with Ruby Amethyst, you draw your 5, 6s, and 7s, and well, you got to play the card you can play. All right, 3-cost Mickey Mouse Detective here for Alex Nassos. Going to ramp us up to 4, maybe up to 5 next turn with those powerful Emerald 5 drops, and then we quest for 2 with Aurora. Back Wetzler's way. Let's see what we can produce to defend. I see a Maui Hero to All hiding in there, but we are 1 turn away from that still. There's a Brave Little Tailor on top. It looks like a Be Prepared as well. Hand already has a Be Prepared, at least 1, maybe 2, so might want the Brave Little Tailor to ink.
That's true. A lot of the times, like the decision we saw last turn between, oh, that's actually a Dragonfire, not a Be Prepared.
Oh, excuse me.
So
Maybe that's
flexible.
keeping.
Could be interested in that. Didn't actually catch what stayed on top.
It's impossible to tell.
Yeah.
Even if we thought we were right, sleight of hand could make us wrong.
That's true.
Here's a Magic Broom. It's in the inkwell. That thing can challenge the Aurora that's questing for 2, but Andrew Wetzler with bigger plans. We're going to go for an Aladdin Street Rat.
And what I was saying earlier, the turn 2 or turn 3 Cauldron activation, Andrew was looking at a 7 ink Aladdin and a 1 ink Archimedes. Most of the time, when you're looking at a pile like that, whichever card you leave on top is likely to end up as ink. So you're really just thinking about, in the event where I do end up playing one of these cards, which would I rather play? And that can be kind of a difficult decision to make really early in the game like this. Wow.
Oh, interesting play from Alex, but I like it. We're going to go shifting 5-cost Aurora onto the Baby Aurora. It's going to grant ward to other characters, but more importantly, it allows us to sing Let It Go. And we're going to do that and take care of the Aladdin so that the big Aladdin can't be put on it. But I don't know. It's putting an extra ink into Andrew Wetzler's inkwall is pretty dangerous against Ruby Amethyst.
Yeah, it is a difficult spot. You really want that Aladdin uh, out of play, because as long as there's an Aladdin Street Rat in play, it's really dangerous to quest with any of your characters, which means you're not really progressing the game. It's unfortunate that you have to use Let It Go to deal with it, but that's kind of what you sign up for when you're playing Emerald Sapphire.
All right, Wetzler here, thumbing through, seeing what he wants to do. I see a Maui. That seems like a pretty good play here. He can come down and eat the big Aurora since it's low strength. The ability on it that's important is ward, giving ward to all your other characters. It itself doesn't have ward, so it can't protect itself. And when you use it to sing, it does make it vulnerable. And now Maui going to eat, essentially giving a 2-for-1. You have to think maybe Alex should have just cast that,
Right.
let it go last turn instead of singing it, and then could have even quested for 2 more with the Baby Aurora.
Yeah, this is probably the best possible punish for Alex's play on the previous turn. And you have to be pretty afraid of that. Most Ruby Amethyst decks are going to be playing 4 copies of Maui.
All right, back Alex Nasso's way. Let's see if we can deploy some more pressure. Only 3 lore so far. Andrew Wetzler has to be feeling good about his chances here. Generally speaking, with Ruby Amethyst, the early turns are where you can really fall behind, and Nasso's just not applying that much pressure as of yet. Here's Cusco.
And I'm not the biggest fan of Cauldron, but when you get into a situation like this, you're pretty happy if you're in Andrew's seat. You're not super far behind on cards. You're not super far behind on lore. You can kind of predict what's going to be happening for the next several turns, and at this point, you're just drawing the best half of the top of your deck, and can put exactly as many answers in hand as you need. And this Maui is just going to make mincemeat of Alex's plans.
Gonna chew him up. Mickey Mouse down 1. Willpower still left on the Maui.
Literally perfect, right,
Yeah.
for dealing with the Cusco.
And we're going to play ink number 7. First, we're going to go spin in the cauldron. We're going to look at the top 2. We're going to put a cauldron on the bottom because the second cauldron is overkill. The first one is pretty mid, if you ask me, but the second one's definitely too much. Here's an Aladdin Heroic Outlaw. Let's get Aladdin Heroic Outlaw on the screen because this is one of the dominant cards for Ruby Amethyst for beating up on the opposing character-heavy decks like Amber and Steel. But the Heroic Outlaw, whenever it challenges an opposing character, banishes and challenges and banishes an opposing character, you gain 2 lore and your opponent loses 2 lore. So you steal 2 lore from him. Pretty on brand for Aladdin. That thief.
Yeah, Street Rat. No, that's
Rip
the small
rap.
one.
Nah, whatever. All right, so
Genie is a pretty good answer to Aladdin, I'll say.
yeah, but this 1 willpower Maui's a pretty good answer to this Cusco.
That's true. But when you're signing up for a Cusco deck, a lot of the time, what your expectations for these 3 lore characters is that you're going to be getting 3 lore out of them. You're
Right.
super happy if you can quest twice, but a lot of the time, your opponents are just going to be able to answer any exerted characters like this.
All right, well, we played a 7-drop Aladdin last turn, so we can potentially play an 8-drop this turn. I see an Elsa, Spirit of Winter hanging out, but maybe we just want to play something like the BLT, Mr. Sammy himself,
That's true.
Mickey Mouse, Brave Little Tailor. All right, here it is. Mickey Mouse, Brave Little Tailor was one of the more iconic-looking cards when the set was first previewed. This is the character that quests for the highest amount of lore naturally. It's an 8-drop. very large stats, has evasive and quest for 4. Uh, of all the things an 8 drop can do, it does quite a bit in terms of just being large.
Right, and Andrew is a big believer in Brave Little Tailor, bringing 4 copies in his deck. Uh, but we talked about comparing Shivan Dragon to Maleficent. In my mind, Brave Little Tailor is a little closer to Shivan Dragon, where it looks a little more exciting than it actually is. But we'll
That's
see
fair.
if
That's
it.
fair. All right. So what is the Maleficent of Alpha Beta? Maleficent
Well,
Monstrous Dragon. If
you
we're
know,
going in reverse,
this is kind of where the comparisons break down
there it
because
is.
creatures in Alpha not nearly as impressive as what we have going on in Lorcana.
All right. You heard it here, folks. Alpha sucks. Lorcana's great.
Ooh,
I'm Bo Matt Creator.
defensive Brave Little Tailor.
Yeah, well, it has evasive. Might as well use it to challenge opposing evasive characters, especially when you're way behind on lore. And Alex Nassos up to 8, but just a Hans in play. If Wetzler can knock off the Hans preemptively, then it's going to be put him in quite a good position. If he has something like the 9-drop Maleficent Monstrous Dragon, he can challenge it, but going to go for Heroic Outlaw instead. And coupled with that Elsa in hand, this could be disaster for Alex Nassos next turn.
This is a slightly awkward spot. You kind of feel like if you're in Alex's position with these two be prepareds, but at this point you're kind of set up to be ahead of whatever your opponent's dealing already. So, maybe Andrew can induce some overcommitment out of Alex, but if not, he might just be in the driver's seat from here on out anyway.
All right, here's the 5-cost Aurora. Let's get that one on the screen because this is one that doesn't see a ton of play, but was one of the more hyped cards when the set first came out. This 5-cost Aurora grants ward to all of your other characters, has shift onto other characters, and that's it. But it's a reasonable sized body at 3/5, and protecting the Hans from a targeted attack is nice. But Alex Nasso is just kind of blindly questing. Doesn't seem like he really has a plan. But even if he did have a plan, Andrew Wetzler's deck is well equipped to handle anything he could throw out right now.
Right. This is, the ward kind of falls a little short if you're not in the perfect situations for it. Even Cusco, having ward himself, you kind of quest with it once, and then you're vulnerable to the other half of the interaction in Lorcana, which is challenging.
Yeah. You say half. This character, that's like 98% of the cards.
That's true, but then you see decks like Ruby Amethyst picking all the good targeted removal, right?
Right. No, you make an important point, right? Like, I actually think that the characters being the primary source of interaction is a really cool thing. And you see Maui here to all, Gaston out of Ruby. This is, the reckless mechanic allowing the characters to essentially become removal spells.
And this has been so far today we've seen a pretty good showing of that. With evasive has come up both aggressively and defensively. We're seeing characters untapped or readied with Shield of Virtue. There's a lot of combat happening, and that's, like you're saying, just one of the tools that Ruby Amethyst can use to assert control.
Yeah, so Dragonfire knocks off the readied Aurora, and then Hans gets challenged by Aladdin, and then Brave Little Tailor quests for 4 and up to 6 lures Andrew Wetzler. But just a Hans as the reply from Alex Nassos, and this is not going to be enough. Andrew Wetzler are going to easily take over this game, and we're already in garbage time. We'll see how long it takes for Wetzler to complete the game, but I just don't think this Emerald deck has the ability to stop what's going on the other side at this juncture. It needs to be way more aggressive in the early turns.
Yeah, every turn, Andrew's been using almost all of his ink thanks to this Cauldron. Just has a hand full of heaters. I think we put a Brave Little Tailor on top this turn. This original Brave Little Tailor is going to town. And seems all over but the crying.
Yep. And now Nasso's going to take another draw. We're not quite at lethal next turn with questing. We can quest for 7. Here's another Aurora. And then we're going to go back Wetzler's way. Probably just going to ignore the Aurora. Play something from hand that threatens lethal next turn. Quest for 7 up to 19. Now, it may look like 20 lore is hard to gain. And in a lot of decks, it is. Because the characters often cost way more than what their lore value says. But what that really means is that oftentimes you need to quest with a bunch of small characters to win the game, or a few times with some large characters. And we're seeing these
Hmm.
Mickey Mouse Brave Little Tailors just show off and how much lore they're generating. All right, Alex, do you have three removal spells? No, packing it in. Game one goes to Andrew Wetzler's Ruby Amethyst Control. All right, Matt, while these players are shuffling up and getting ready for game number two, why don't you take a look over this? Oh, you got it. Tell me about this deck.
All right, I'm looking at Alex Nassos's Emerald Sapphire aggro deck, and last round we also saw an Emerald deck. That one was paired with Amber for just in time, but we have no such card in Alex's deck. We're more interested in curving out here. Only a few one drops, but then we start getting into the 3 and 4 and 5 drops with a bunch of extra lore, and we're looking at a little bit more interaction coming from Sapphire in Let It Go, and a little bit of ramp from Mickey Mouse Detective, and then Phil, another card we saw last round that hasn't been the most prominent in this first chapter metagame, but Phil is as good as at controlling the board as it is with aggression, because Phil can keep questing while sending in your other less important characters to kind of combine to trade up with things at the cost of only one card at a time. And then the kind of the finisher for Alex are these two copies of Eye of Fates, which is a really interesting item that kind of lets your onboard characters quest for one more, which leaves your opponent with that many fewer draw steps to kind of get you under control before you cross the finish line.
Yeah, while the current first chapter has no cards that can directly generate lore without a character on the table, the next set does not boast that. And the next set has, so far that I've seen, three different characters
Mm,
that can gain lore so far without, or sorry, three different cards that can gain lore without questing.
right.
And to me, that's pretty awesome, but it's also pretty scary. But it's going to change how we build decks and change how we interact. All right, game number two is underway here. Alex Nasso is going to be on the play. Leads off with Flounder. Flounder is a fan favorite of the goons. And when I say goons, I mean those one cost 2/2s that are inkable and quest for one. Every color has one. And blues is Flounder. And then on the other side of things, we have an Archimedes to challenge that Flounder, but maybe going to not even do that so that we have something that can challenge the Aurora, since that does quest for 2.
Yeah, this is kind of the next best thing to a Simba here. You did get your one drop down, and it might be able to quest a few times if your opponent feels kind of pressured into saving their one drop for your two drop. But if that's the situation and you're in, the Aurora is only going to get to quest once, and this owl is likely going to trade for it eventually. Let's see how Andrew wants to develop in the early game. Looking at a befuddle here, which is
Ooh. Befuddle bouncing 2 drops always nice. Feels real good. Bouncing a 1 drop, not so much. Bouncing your own Lilo making a wish or Maleficent biding her time. Those are fun.
and kind of a teaser for a very prevalent theme for Amethyst. As long as we're talking about the next set, we've seen what 3, 4 cards at least that return your own character's hand.
Yeah, I don't know if you have watched, was it The Sword in the Stone with Merlin and Madame Mims?
I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, so they have a like a almost like a contest where they're transforming into different, larger, scarier, beating each other by transforming into different animals, and then they keep like bunny hopping each other,
Uh-huh.
and so the characters naturally return themselves a hand, or at least Mims's theme is Mims keeps returning Merlin to hand to like check him right over and
Gotcha.
over again. All right, so it looks like Befuddle does knock off the Aurora. We're gonna Archimedes. We're gonna. Oh wait, what happened? Was the lore
Yeah,
has to be wrong if Wetzler's at 0, then right? My
right. I believe this Archimedes did quest, and kind of punished here for questing with the Archimedes. Alex is definitely in favor of trading off these one drops if it could allow cards like Flynn or that Aurora that's in hand to quest an extra time. But Maleficent gonna put a little bit of pressure on that.
All right, Lord Totals updated. It's 1-1. Nasso's here. Looking to get a little frisky, a little aggressive. Cat Geeky getting a little frisky. Thanks for that new subscription. Chat, if you hate advertisements just like I do, make sure to hit the sub button and Twitch ads, poof, gone. Just like Merlin's magic. Plus, helps keep me and Bomat in the booth and the boss happy. We'd appreciate any follows in chat if you are currently watching and not following. We plan on producing a lot of Disney's Lorcana content over the next while. I'm not sure exactly when, but at least the next year. All right, here's a 4-cost Aurora. I actually don't recall exactly what this one does. I think it shrinks your opponent's strength.
Right. It looks like Andrew's not totally sure either.
We got a reader. So this 4-cost Aurora is actually quite good in limited and in like with the starter decks because it can shrink your opponent's quested character and then you can run your 2/2s into their 2/2s and yours survive and theirs don't. But it often requires you to be ready to challenge your opponent's stuff, so it doesn't usually pair well with things like Flynn Rider, so you don't see it too often.
And what this Aurora Briar Rose in Alex's deck tells me is that he's really a believer in Dreaming Guardian, right? The Floodborn Aurora. Kind of wants to be able to develop that ward as seamlessly as possible, which could include shifting out to a 4-drop.
All right, Nasos is up to 3 lore here after questing with the Flynn Rider. We'll get that updated in just a second. Our spotter is doubling as our head judge and having to run around the event hall while we're doing this, so apologies for the lag on some of those things. We're doing the best we can. Nothing you can do about it, chat. All right, here's a Rafiki. I'm going to pop that Flynn Rider. Going to put a damage on the Rafiki and discard. And LeFou, the one who readies, Gaston's little pipsqueak. Gonna get discarded. We're gonna quest for one with the Maleficent. Not the greatest quest because this 2/5 does just kind of eat it up, but then Rafiki can trade, so back and forth.
Yeah, Andrew pretty short on card draw this game. No friends on the other side, no magic mirror,
And had to discard.
That's true.
All right, Nasos taps 3. What you got? Shifting Aurora onto Aurora, and playing another Aurora. Aurora's all over the place. Questing for 2. Okay, this thing is a 3/5, so both of these characters can ram ding dong up in there and trade off. We drew Dragonfire for turn. We can use that to kill the 2-drop to protect our quest. But looks like we have a Maui hero to all, and you're welcome.
And I mentioned Alex being apparently a believer in Aurora Dreaming Guardian. I kind of called that out because I'm less of a fan. You see, situations like this, Alex was able to shift and got that extra lore a turn ahead of time, but now that entire character has been removed, and it took 2 cards from Alex for just one of Andrew's, and that Maui's still in play even.
I actually think so. When I have been talking to my friends about game theory for Lorcana, a couple of them have asked me what I thought about the shift mechanic, and I think that their involvement with shift has been commons or uncommons like these Auroras, and that shift is bad. There's very little payoff for the shift. You're exposing 2 characters for 1, but then shifting something like Stitch Rockstar, he just floods the board with characters and refreshes all of them, so like you're not really losing resources by doing it. But we have a Cusco from Alex Nassos. Wetzler goes ahead and pops off and trades with the Aurora, and now we're going to see what he wants to deploy. Something like the Queen would be nice here because it can gain some card advantage.
And we don't see a ton of shifted Auroras right now, but the cards we do see shifting most often, Stitch Rockstar, like you said, and then Tinkerbell Giant Fairy and Aladdin Heroic Outlaw.
Right.
And that's because those cards have a huge effect on the game the turn you shift them. They're that much better if you can challenge with them right away.
Now, I'll say this. I also think that the downshifts, the small versions of those cards are also quite strong, whereas I think that the downshifts of Aurora are quite weak, mostly because I think Sapphire as a color at the moment is a little weak compared to the other colors, but once we get more cards, that could all change. Here is a Tinkerbell, most helpful. This 4-drop is Pongo-esque, except it has a nice little pixie dust ability where it gives something evasive, so you can use it as a trick to turn off your opponent's bodyguard stuff, or you can use it on your own stuff to get evasive and challenge your opponent's evasive characters.
And the way these past few turns have developed, you saw Andrew kind of keeping Alex's board at bay with the Befuddle, the Maui, and the effect that that had is Andrew had a couple spare characters around, so that he was able to challenge smaller characters rather than using Maui's Reckless, uh, and able to save Maui to be able to take down Cusco,
Right.
which is target A #1.
Well sequenced by Wetzler, but a lot of lore here for Nasos going up to 12 with the Tinkerbell, and it has evasive, so Wetzler's going to need some help. We have Dragonfire at the ready. We can fire that off on the Tinkerbell and start questing. We have a Befuddle. We can ink or save for later to bounce something. I think Dragonfire on the Tinkerbell makes a lot of sense. Evasive characters are somewhat difficult for this deck, this Ruby Amethyst control deck, to beat on occasion.
And Alex is just kind of left over with the scraps. Is not going to be able to challenge this heroic outlaw, and it's just going to kind of respond with a clock right back.
Another Mickey Mouse Detective, not necessarily what you want to draw off the top, but
Right.
characters that quest are viable, and Wetzler going to go ahead and quest for 2, but this leaves him so vulnerable to the Aladdin Heroic Outlaw. You have to imagine, maybe you just sit on your heels. Maybe you don't quest at all for a little while, but that's not going to be the case here. We're going to go Aladdin, choose up a Mickey Mouse. We're going to steal 2 lore, +2, -2. Rafiki trades with Flounder, and now it's Heroic Outlaw versus Mickey Mouse Detective. And it's not a fair fight.
Not exactly,
Not
no.
a fair fight.
And you mentioned kind of every character coming off the top representing a little bit of lore, and that's kind of the principle that aggressive decks in Lorcana have been built on. But you can see it doesn't always work out. Uh, there's just enough tools that the other decks have to be able to keep you under control when you're destroying off the top like this. But there's a card in the next set, I think it's Arthur, that might turn that on its head and actually let you get yourself into a position where every top deck is reliably threatening to win the game.
All right, back Wetzler's way. No quest for Nasos. We're going to redeploy the Befuddled Aurora and then a Flounder. 3 characters in play, only 4 potential lore versus that Aladdin Heroic Outlaw. We're going to keep questing with that thing for sure. Hopefully deploying another threat here soon. Wetzler holding on for dear life to the LeFou since it can ready the Aladdin and max punish Nasos, but I don't think you really need it. I might have went ahead and got it onto the table.
And I would not be surprised to see Andrew play both cards here, but at least one of the cards in his hand is this LeFou Instigator. And this is a card that we saw in early Ruby Amethyst decks quite a lot, but it got gradually phased out as players started prioritizing, 1-ink creatures and maybe also tech cards for the mirror. But Andrew is playing 3, largely because he's so interested in ending the game with all these evasive characters. And it's going to be pretty good here because this Aladdin's going to be able to quest and then not be threatened at all if Andrew decides this is the turn to play LeFou.
Decides to quest, save the LeFou in case Nasos does want to quest, but Dragonfire going to knock off the 2-cost Aurora. That thing is a little threatening since it does quest for 2. Mostly Wetzler just afraid of losing to something like Cusco down the line and trying to protect his life total. 5, 4, let it go. Aladdin and all the pressure gone, and now Flounder and Mickey Mouse gonna get questing. You gotta think maybe that LeFou should be in play right now. We could be eating that Flounder. We could be having fish and chips right now, man.
Fish and chips. Wow.
Okay.
The Flounder fan base is going to roast you for that one.
Come at me, citizens of Lorcana. All right, we're going to play friends on the other side. If you're racing and you're being aggressive, that's what you want your opponent to do. Play friends on the other side. We have 7 for another Heroic Outlaw, so this is going to prevent questing next turn from Nasos. Going to need a 7-cost Hades or another Let It Go to deal with it. Let's see if you can find it.
4. Could this be an Eye of the Fates?
Nope. Hans Gruber.
That's probably better.
All right.
If Andrew misses on removal for just a couple more turns,
Well,
we did not.
Nope.
Alex was threatening to quickly amass 6 lore in play readied, which is one of the ways to beat Aladdin.
No, we got the game 1. Here it goes. We're going to quest for 2. We're going to ready it. We're going to pass the turn.
Wow.
Right? Pass the turn. And then, should things go wrong, we have be prepared next turn. It's dangerous. It's scary. But we have to. They have no cards in hand. They have so few removal spells in their deck. I think we go 17. I think we ready, and we just cross your fingers.
Now, Andrew didn't see it in game one, but if he's savvy, one of the cards you could be afraid of here is Eye of the Fates. If Alex top decks Eye of the Fates, that's lethal.
Let's go. Eye of the Face one-time dealer. What is it? Is it a little guy?
Believe it's an Emerald card. Ugh.
Just a Hans. All right, here's 3. We're going to go up to 17. Mickey and Flounder go up to 19, but there's 3 lore on the other side and no way to stop it. Andrew Wetzler going to move to 2-0, looking quite good in our last chance qualifier. But don't go anywhere. After this match is over, we will be moving to a backup feature match. And there it is, the handshake. Andrew Wetzler takes it down with Ruby Amethyst control.